From Singular Sound, I'm Joe Vitale Jr. And today we're going to discuss custom mode. In my last video on the MIDI Maestro, I went over all the different functions and all the different aspects of the MIDI Maestro. And today we're going to go over how to program the MIDI Maestro in custom mode. Now, the MIDI Maestro perfectly integrates with the Aeros Loop Studio and the Beat Buddy. But it's also a full-fledged MIDI controller. And today I'm going to show you how to program the pedal using the Singular Sound MIDI Maestro app. And we're going to go through a lot of different other aspects of the MIDI Maestro. Now, before we dive in today though, I would like to invite you to like and follow us on here and all of our other social media platforms so you get all the news, updates, tutorials, and other information on all of our amazing products here at Singular Sound. Now, before we start to program everything, the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to download the official Singular Sound MIDI Maestro app, and you can do that in the App Store for both Android and for iOS. Once you have the app downloaded, the next thing to do is you need to fire up the MIDI Maestro and see what firmware version that you're using. We want to make sure that your firmware is up to date and that you have all the newest features available to you when you're programming. Now, when it comes to upgrading the firmware, I'm not going to go through that right now because I covered that in a previous video, and please check out my video on the MIDI Maestro and all of its functions to learn how to upgrade the firmware. It's very, very straightforward. Now, once you've downloaded and upgraded the firmware and you're all good to go there, the next thing to do is you need to look at all the pedals and different hardware that you want to control, and you need to get the MIDI list of commands and values that will control that. To do this, you'll either need to look in the manual that came with your hardware, or you need to go to the manufacturer's website and look on there for a list of MIDI commands. After you have that list, the next thing we need to do is we need to open up the app, and we're going to start programming the different buttons on the MIDI Maestro via the app, and then we're going to upload that, and I will show you that process. All right, let's create a command from scratch. There are two methods to doing this, and I'm going to show you both of those. The first thing we need to do is we need to click on the Singular Sound MIDI Maestro app. Once it's done loading, it's going to bring up the last configuration that you used, but we're not going to worry about that right now. The next thing you need to do is you need to click on the little hamburger in the upper left-hand corner, and then you're going to click on My Commands. Now in here, this is where all the previous commands that you have created, or there may not be anything in here at all, but right now we're going to create a new command. So we're going to click on the blue plus symbol at the bottom of the page. Now in here, this is where you're going to configure that command. Now we're going to create a command for a fictitious pedal. So we're just going to use something very generic like guitar tuner. And now we need to give the device a name. So we're just going to call this pedal. Typically this would be whatever the device is that you're using. Under description, that's optional. We're going to bypass that for now. Under type, you have control change CC, program change PC, node on, node off, and pitch bend. But for what we're doing right now, we're just going to simply do control change. Next, under channel, in this fictitious pedal, we have set it to channel 1, so we're going to also set this to channel 1. Under command, let's say in the manual, the tuner CC number was 56. We're going to put that in. Now under value, let's say that 65 to 127 turns on that function. We're just going to go straight to either, you could go to 65, I'm going to go straight to 127. When you're done programming it, hit save. And now if you look in the center of the screen, you're going to see a command called guitar tuner under pedal. Now, you can delete any command you want to simply by hitting the little red trash can there on the right. And we're going to delete that. All right, that's the first way of creating a command. The second way, it usually occurs when you're actually configuring a button. So what we're going to do is this. We're not going to worry about the button part right now, but I'm going to click on that top button configuration box. And don't worry about the other information on the top, but down toward the middle of the page there, you're going to see where it says main function. Underneath that, you'll see the word add. Click that. This brings you back over to My Commands, and we're going to add it the same way. You just hit the blue plus symbol and go through the same process we just did. And that's all there is to adding a new command. We're going to click on the little hamburger in the upper left-hand corner. We're going to click on My Custom Modes. We're going to create a brand new custom mode called Commands. Hit save. We're going to choose blank. All right, now we have our blank template here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to click on the first button, and we're going to call this Open Song 1. And next, we're going to hit the Add button, and we're going to search for LSB 0. There we go. Now, I had already previously created this particular command, so we're going to add this now. If you're getting deep into MIDI terminology, you'll have MSB and LSB. MSB being most significant bit, LSB being least significant bit. All right, now that we've added the LSB 0, let's add some additional ones. So we're going to click on Add again, and let's search MSB. There it is. Click on that. Let's add another one. Search PC. Add that. And we'll add one more. Now I'd like to mention here, when we added these different commands to a single button, we did these kind of out of sequence. So we want to move the most significant bit command to the top. You're going to click on it, hold, drag it to the top, and let go. What's really great about this is now you can add commands that you want to in whatever sequence you want to, and then rearrange them later. So I'd like to mention, if you scroll to the bottom here, we've added this fourth command, this COM0. We don't need that, so we can delete that command simply by hitting the little red trash can on the right. It's going to ask you, are you sure you want to remove this command? You're going to hit delete, and that command is then removed. When you're finished with everything, remember to hit save. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to make a button with both a press and release command for an Eros and Beat Buddy transition. And now I'm working with a blank template here inside of the MIDI Maestro app. So the first thing we need to do is click on the top button configuration block. And under top line, I'm just going to call this simply next part. And then we'll say underneath the bottom text, we'll use that for a change, and we'll call this transition. All right, now we need to add a command. So the first command we need to create is going to be one that's going to start the transition to the next part in the Beat Buddy and select the part in the Eros. So to do that, we're going to click the blue plus symbol at the bottom. Under command name, we're just going to call this simply next part A, and you can name this whatever you want. Under device, let's just call this BBA. Under long description, don't worry about that. Control change we'll leave alone. Channel, we'll set that to 1. Command, this will be 113 with a value of 127. Hit done, hit save. Goes down to it, let's add that. All right, so we've put in our first command. Now we need to add a second command. Hit the blue plus symbol again. I'm going to call this next part B. Call this again BBA for under device. Leave it control change CC, MIDI channel set to 1. Command value 113 with a value this time of 0. Hit save, and now we're going to add that one. But now you're going to notice we have a slight issue because now both those commands are set to the press. So we need to change the second one to the release. So to do that, we're going to click on the release button, then turn off the press button. Don't forget to hit save. And now you see we have our new button at the top with all the configuration. So the next thing we need to do is we need to upload this to the MIDI Maestro. So you'll follow your standard pairing procedure, and you're going to hit the button in the upper right-hand corner with the little box and the arrow. And now this is sending upwards. We'll speed this up because this takes approximately 2 minutes to send this configuration over, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. Once it's finished, it will let you know. Now the next thing you need to do is just power off the MIDI Maestro, power it back on, and it's going to default now to that new command you just uploaded. Okay, now that we've programmed the MIDI Maestro, let me show you how this works in actual implementation. What we're doing is this. We're going out of the MIDI Maestro into the Eros Loop Studio, which then goes into the Beat Buddy. And what we're going to do is this. I have a 2x2 song here with 2 different parts. I'm going to start the Eros, which is also going to start the Beat Buddy completely synced. And then we're going to use the MIDI Maestro to control the transition, and it's going to control both of them simultaneously. So check this out. Here we go. All right, so here we have part 1 playing. And then we're going to use the MIDI Maestro now to control the transition. So here we go. So now we're into part 2. All right, now let me show you how to create a button that toggles. I want to create a mode that replicates the layout of my Eros, which I've done here, called Eros Emulator. And it's going to be in 2x2 mode, but with having the added bonus of having 2 extra buttons on the MIDI Maestro. Now these 2 extra buttons are going to have mute commands on them. So here's the mode, but I need to make a start and stop button, and I only have 1 button position left on this page, and I don't want to make several pages to switch to. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to click on that first button setup, and we're going to take the top line of text, and we're just going to simply put in there, start. Okay, next we need to go under main function and hit the blue add button, and we need to look for the Eros start command. Now while that's on this page, you can also use the search field at the top, and we'll write Eros start. And there it is. Click on it. We've now created that first command. Now we have our start command created, but we need to create a stop command, and we need to make it so this button will toggle. So underneath the add button, you're going to see, will this button toggle? You click on that little slider, and we're going to change the top line of text here to stop. And then you're going to click add under secondary function. And you can use the search field again in the top here, or if you know right where it is, you can just click on it. But here we are, Eros stop. Click on that. We've now added our second command. Once you've done that, don't forget to hit save. Now that we have that button programmed, the next thing to do is to upload it to the MIDI Maestro. Now we're not going to go through that whole process again, but I'm going to upload it and then I'll show you how this works in actual practice. Okay, now that we've uploaded this custom mode, let me explain a little bit exactly what's going on here. We've taken the buttons that are over here on the Eros and we've emulated them over here on the MIDI Maestro. But what you have now is the added bonus of having a mute track for 1 and for track 2. So what we now have created is we've created this start button, and I made it uppercase so it's really easy to spot. So that now emulates this button over here on the Eros. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to hit start, and you're going to see how this toggles. You're going to see the text change, and you're going to see how it controls the Eros over here. Now we're running over here on the Eros, and you see how the text now has changed to stop over here on the MIDI Maestro. When we hit stop, controls it just like it was running on the Eros. Another new feature, which is a great time saver, is the ability to set a channel to a default template. So let's say you're creating something for the Beat Buddy or the Eros. So to do that, we're going to click on the little hamburger in the upper left-hand corner. We're going to click on My Custom Modes. We're going to hit the blue plus at the bottom of the screen. We're just going to call this Custom Channel. Hit Save. And now we're going to select a template. So in this case, let's choose the Eros. And now you have the ability to select what channel that'll go to. So you'll have options for default or 1 through 16. Let's set it to 1 and hit done. Now this custom mode has been set to channel 1. This is a real time saver because it allows you, using a template, to just quickly set the channel for it and go. Another great new feature inside the MIDI Maestro app is the ability to move, copy, paste, and clear buttons. And let me show you how that works. I've created a custom mode here with a couple different, just a start playback button, a stop playback button, and a home button. They could be anything, whatever you've customized. Now, the way this works is you're going to press and hold the button you want to move. In this case, let's move the start playback button. So you press and hold that. It's going to open a little menu that says copy, move, or clear. You're going to go to move. And then it brings you into the move state. Now in this state, you can move any of these buttons that have the little bar there on the right. So let's move the start button down to the bottom. And let's move the home button into, let's say, right here. Now, if you look at the top there where it says page 1, if you see where it says cancel and done, if you hit cancel, it'll put them back into their original state. If you hit done, it'll lock it in. So let's hit cancel to show you what that does. So now we're back to the original state. Let's move those again. Now let's hit done. We've now locked that into place. Now let's say you wanted to copy one of these buttons. Let's copy the stop playback button to just underneath it. Hit copy. And then you're going to click and hold the button below it. And now it's opened up a new option, which is paste. Hit paste. And now we've copied the stop playback button to the button right next to it. We can also clear that we just did simply by holding it, go down to the bottom where it says clear, hit delete, and it's gone back. Always remember, if you're moving the buttons, you need to always hit done when finished. Let's put these back where they were. Move the home button, hit done, and there we are. All right, so let me show you how to rename a mode and then also rearrange the button setups on a page. What I did here is I created a custom mode using the Eros template, and we just called it template. But let's say you wanted to call it something else. Let's say we wanted to call it My Eros. You would go into the little hamburger in the upper left-hand corner. You click on My Custom Modes, and down where it says template, you're going to see the little box with the pencil next to it. Click on that. We're going to change this to My Eros. Hit save, go back out, and now you can see it says My Eros. But let's say you want to change the order of this default setup. So let's go over to page 3, for example. And let's say we wanted to swap the undo redo bottom track and the undo redo top track button. Now the way you do this is you press and hold the button setup that you want to move, and then you just drag it to where you want it to go, release, and hit done. Now, while we're still on page 3 here, let's also swap the mute, unmute bottom track and the mute, unmute top track buttons. So we, again, click and hold, release, and hit done. Now the leftmost button affects the top track and the rightmost button affects the bottom track. Now this is opposite of how the Eros' own buttons work, which may work better for you, but this gives you some options of the ability to rearrange the default templates. Now all I have to do is simply upload this mode to the MIDI Maestro. To do that, we're going to click the little box with the arrow in the upper right-hand corner. Okay, now that we have the My Eros mode uploaded to the MIDI Maestro, I'm going to show you how that changed the button configuration. So we're going to click on 2x2 commands, and if you look now at the top, we have now changed the position of the undo redo top track, undo redo bottom track, and the mute unmute top track and the mute unmute bottom track. All right, now let's look at page navigation on the MIDI Maestro, and I'll show you the 2 ways to do that. The first way we're going to do this is we're going to create buttons on the MIDI Maestro. We're going to program them to do what are called redirects, which allows you to go between different pages, either backwards or forwards, depending on which way you set the redirect. The second way is to not use any of the buttons on the MIDI Maestro itself, but to use the official singular sound foot switch or any dual momentary foot switch plugged into the extension pedal input on the back of the MIDI Maestro. Okay, so let's start doing this. We're going to start programming these buttons, and we're going to speed up sections of it, so we're not going to be sitting and watching this as I program slowly all these individual buttons. So we're going to first take this first button on page 1. So we're going to change this top line of text here to previous. And then we're going to change the redirect from none to page 9. Remember to hit save. Then we're going to go to the 6th button at the bottom there, and we're going to change this one to the word next. And this one we're going to change to redirect to page 2. Remember to hit save. Now we're going to go to the next page. And we're going to do this through all the pages here until we get up to page 9, and then we're going to do something different. To save some time, I'm going to speed this process up. I'd like to mention that we're going to take page 2 and using a previous button go back to page 1. And then on page 2, we're going to also make a next button that will take you to page 3. One thing I would like to also clarify is that as you're programming this, not all of these pages are going to go to 9 and then forward to 2 like I did on that very first page. That was just to show you how the process would start. Now, on the first button of the page, we are going to create a previous button and have that go back to 8. Always remember, hit save. All right, now on button number 5, we're going to do something different here. Button number 5, we're going to change the top line of text to mute, and then the bottom line of text to commands. And we're going to send this to page 10. Remember to hit save. Now on page 10, we're going to do something also different. Now because I need all 6 buttons on that page to be a mute for each of those tracks, there's no extra buttons to go back to the previous page or next. So what we have to do is we have to change in the command structure for each of these buttons. We have to change that so as soon as you press the button, it will send the command out, and then it will redirect it back to page 9. Then if you need to go back into this page again, you'll have to hit that button again that goes to the mute commands, which will bring you back to this page. So let's start going through these. And you're going to see we're going to change these all to 9. Remember to hit save on each of these. All right, now that we've programmed all 10 pages, I'm gonna upload this to the MIDI Maestro and we'll see this in action. Okay, now that we've uploaded this new mode to the MIDI Maestro, we have all 10 pages active. Let me show you how this works. Now, if you're gonna notice here, we have all your different commands here, but then you'll see the previous and next. So we're gonna hit the next button, and you see it goes through each page here. And now you're going to see this new button that we created called Mute Commands. Now when you hit that, this redirects over to page 10, and now you have mute track 1 through 6. Now what's great is you hit this, and it brings you back to the previous page. Go back to Mute Commands, Mute 6. And the reason why you would have it do this in this kind of redirect is while you're playing, you'll mute a track, and then it brings you back to the previous menu. You can bypass all of this, and you can use all the buttons on here for different functions, and then you can use the singular sound foot switch or any dual momentary foot switch to cycle through these. Now let me show you how that looks. Now as mentioned, you can use this method where you're using previous and next to cycle through all the different pages on the MIDI Maestro. There's no problem with that. But let's say you just want to use all 6 buttons here and don't even want to have to create these redirects. You can use the singular sound official foot switch plugged into the extension pedal input on the back, and you can use this pedal to cycle through these. And you can also go back too. This just gives you all the flexibility and power to make your performance customized to what you need to do. Okay, let's talk about how to send multiple commands at once to different units on different channels. And for this, we're going to be using the Beat Buddy and the Eros Loop Studio. And what we need to do before we start all this is we need to set the Beat Buddy to listen for MIDI channel 1 and set the Eros Loop Studio to listen for MIDI channel 2. And what we're going to do on the Beat Buddy is we're going to be opening the second song in the 3rd folder. And what we're going to do in the Eros Loop Studio is open a song that's set to MSB 2 and PC 3. So the first thing we need to do is after we've programmed the Eros and the Beat Buddy to the correct MIDI channels, now we can start adding commands. So we're going to click on under main function, add, and then we're going to use the search field in the top to search for MSB 0. And it's not there, so we're going to hit the plus symbol, which will automatically populate the command name. Under device, we're just going to simply call this BB for Beat Buddy. Don't worry about the description. We'll leave the control change alone. We're going to set the MIDI channel to 1, and then we're going to set the command to 0, and we're going to set the value also to 0. Once you're finished, hit save. It'll bring it down and add that command. Next, we're going to add LSB 2. Now we need to add the program change. All right, now we've programmed the Beat Buddy, now we need to program the Eros. Under main function, you're going to hit the add button again. Under the search field, you're going to type in MSB 2. It will automatically populate. This time we're going to call this Eros. This time it'll be MIDI channel 2 with a command of 0 and a value of 2. When you're finished, hit save. And you're going to add that command. Now we need to add one more command. Under the search field, we're going to type in PC3. And now we're going to upload this to the MIDI Maestro, and I'm going to show you how this works in application. Now, in order for this to work, we need to configure the Eros Loop Studio and the Beat Buddy independently to accept the commands that we're sending from the MIDI Maestro. So for this, on the Eros, we need to go into Settings. We need to go to MIDI. We need to go to MIDI in. And we need to set the MIDI channel to 2. Now that we've set the MIDI in, we need to adjust the MIDI output. So we need to go to MIDI out. We need to scroll down to where it says MIDI out, and we need to go from MIDI out to MIDI through. Hit OK. This will now transfer the information to the Beat Buddy. Okay, now that we have the song loaded, we have to edit a couple parameters. So we go to the little edit pencil. We're going to scroll down to where it says MIDI song select. We're going to turn that on. That might already be on, but we're going to turn that on. And we're going to set the MIDI MSB bank to 2. And we're going to set the MIDI PC, or MIDI program change, to 3. Hit save. We're going to go down to main pedal. We're going to scroll down to MIDI settings. We're going to go MIDI in. We're going to go down to MIDI channel number. Enter. Now, a lot of times this may already be set to Omni, but because we want these to independently work, we want to set this to channel 1, as indicated by the arrow, and then you can go back out. Okay, now that we have this custom mode uploaded to the MIDI Maestro, I want to show you how using a single button press, we can independently control the arrows and the beat buddy to select a specific song that we have determined by our programming. In this case, I'm going to hit the button and you're going to see both these screens change. And I'll show you a close-up of each screen. But for now, watch this. We hit the button. We've now loaded the beat buddy and we've now loaded the arrows. Now let me show you that up close. Okay, now I want to show you something really cool. Now, not only can you send MIDI data out of the 5-pin connector that we're all familiar with, but you can also send MIDI data wirelessly through Bluetooth Low Energy, or BLE. First, let's open up the Singular Sound MIDI Maestro app. Now we have a blank template here called MIDI versus BLE MIDI, and we're going to create a button in the top here. You're going to call the top line, let's just call this Start. Now we're going to add a function. We're going to add a very basic MIDI command function. So we're going to hit plus, and what we're going to do is we're going to call this command Start Playback. And then we're going to call the device, in this case, On Song. Don't worry about the longer description. Type we're going to leave set to control change. MIDI channel we're going to set to 1. Command we're just going to call this 60. And under value we're going to call this 127. Hit save. Now it's important to note that you have to have at least one of the MIDI output types selected. So in this case, we have right now the 5-pin DIN connector output selected. We can run that by itself. We can run the BLE Bluetooth wireless connector output by itself, or we can run them together. Once you have that selected, hit save, and now we've created that top button. Now we can go and create another button here real fast. We'll do this real fast. We're going to create a stop button. And now we've created a start and stop button. Now let's go upload this to the MIDI Maestro, and I'm going to show you how this connects to the On Song app. Okay, now to save a little bit of time, I've already uploaded this custom mode to the MIDI Maestro. And now we're going to open up the On Song app. Now what I've done is I've created kind of a generic song that we can use here so I can show you how the functions work. Now the first thing we need to do though is we need to connect the MIDI Maestro to the On Song app. So the first thing you need to do is you need to click on the pairing button on the back of the MIDI Maestro. Now one thing I would like to mention is this. When you connect to the MIDI Maestro from the On Song app, you shouldn't try to pair the phone with the MIDI Maestro. Now it may ask you to allow connections the first time you use the app, but you're not going to go into your settings menu and try to pair it that way. Next, what you want to do is inside the On Song app, we want to go down to Utilities, Tools, and then where it says Bluetooth MIDI, it's going to say not connected, and it already has detected the MIDI Maestro was there. We're going to click on that, and now you see it says connected. So, all right, so we can go out of that. Now, I've already programmed this particular song to work with the MIDI commands that we programmed in the MIDI Maestro app. So I'm not going to go through that whole process of how you program the On Song app, but I want to show you how it functions. So now, when you hit the Start Playback button at the top, as you see on the screen of the iPhone here, now it is playing a groove. And then you can stop it hitting the stop button. And this is doing this all wirelessly. There's nothing connected like MIDI cables connected to the iPhone. This is all being done via BLE. Okay, let's talk about a great new feature inside the MIDI Maestro app that allows you to upload and download your custom modes that you've created. Now to do this, you're going to click on the little hamburger in the left-hand corner. You're going to go down to the bottom where it says Online and then Browse Custom Modes. Now in here, this is a whole list of all the different modes that all the different MIDI Maestro users around the world have created. And you can search through these simply by scrolling through like this, or you can click where it says Modes at the top and you can search. So for example, if you type in Eros, anything that has the word Eros in it will also then pop up there. It's a great way to search and categorize. Now this is a great way to share your modes with other users, but it's also a wonderful way to back up your modes in case you accidentally delete them. Okay, let's see what we can find here. Let's scroll down here. Okay, I like this one here called GarageBand. Simply click the download button on the right side of the screen. When it's successfully downloaded, it'll give you a notification. Hit OK. And then if you go back into My Custom Modes, you're now going to see there towards the top a new mode there called GarageBand. You can now use that, or you can delete it simply by clicking the little red trash can. Alright, now let me show you how to upload a custom mode in case you want to share it or to back it up. For this, you need to click on the little hamburger in the upper left-hand corner. You're going to go to My Custom Modes. You're going to search or scroll down to the mode that you want to upload. In this case, it's called Raven Live. And you're going to click on the upload button on the right side of the screen. When it's successfully uploaded, it will give you a notification. Hit OK. And then we're going to go back over to Browse Custom Modes. And in the search field in the top, I'm going to type in Raven, and there's my custom mode that I created. Now, along with being able to download and upload custom modes, you can also upload and download custom MIDI commands. Now let's take a look at that. Let's go to the little hamburger in the upper left-hand corner. Go to Browse Commands. Now here's a list of all the different commands that other MIDI Maestro users have created all around the world. And again, this is a wonderful way for you to share MIDI commands as well as to be able to make a backup of any command that you've created on your MIDI Maestro app. I like this command for Drum Set Rock for the Beat Buddy. So I'm going to click on the download button on the right side of the screen. When it's downloaded successfully, you'll get a notification. Click OK. Now click on the little hamburger, go to My Commands, and let's search for Drum Set. And there's the command we just downloaded. Again, you can use it or you can hit the little trash can and delete it. Now that I've shown you how to download custom commands, let me show you how to upload one. To upload, we're going to click on the little hamburger, go to My Commands, and for this I've created a custom command called Wood Setlist for the Beat Buddy. So to upload this, all you have to do is click on the upload button on the right side of the screen. When it's uploaded successfully, it'll give you a notification. Hit OK. And now let's go back over to Browse Commands, and now to search it, let's click on the command or device name and we'll type in wood. And there's the command that I just uploaded.
Now, one thing I would like to stress is this. Anytime you're working with third-party hardware, specifically pedals or rack gear, you may run into some limitations in that hardware. An example might be is a feature you might feel should be able to be controlled via MIDI and it may just not have a command associated with it. Another example of this would be, and this is something I ran into and did come up with a workaround, which I will go over in a moment, is that sometimes when you're daisy chaining pedals or rack gear, if you're going in to out and into out, so forth, it may filter certain functions out as you're going through the output. So what an example of that is, let's say you have two pedals. One pedal will have the input going into it out of the MIDI Maestro. Well, this pedal will be able to, the first one will be able to receive all the CC data, but the output of that first pedal may filter out the CC data going to the next pedal. So while you'll be able to control the first pedal, you might not be able to control the second. Now the workaround for that is this. you would come out of the MIDI Maestro and you would go into basically a MIDI mult or MIDI splitter. For what I'm doing today, I basically threw together a just point-to-point, the 5-pin DIN connector going to 2 outputs. In some cases, though, that can cause some other errors, so what you want to do is maybe go to an active MIDI splitter. That will usually take care of the problem. Okay, as you can see here, we have a fairly elaborate MIDI setup going. And so what we've got here is the MIDI Maestro that's going to be commanding everything. We have a Line 6 M5, a Line 6 M9, and an Electrics Mo effects. And I have each of these programmed to their own MIDI channel. In this particular instance, I have the MIDI channel set up for 1, 2, and 3. You can put them in any configuration, that doesn't matter. But what you'll see now is this. If you look over here, for example, on the Mo effects and you watch the distortion on circuit, and I'm tapping here the bottom right of it says Electrics Distort Off On, you can see now I can turn that on and off. We can still turn on the tuner on the M5, we turn the tuner on the M9. Now in this particular configuration, yes, I'm using 2 pedals that are very similar in terms of their MIDI implementation, but I wanted to show you what was possible if you're using 2 different pedals. You could have totally different companies, that doesn't matter. It just all depends on what the MIDI implementation CC data chart is. And in this particular case, you have the ability to turn on the different pedals. This gives you the ability to change the presets. Now, one thing I'd also like to mention, again, going back to the potential limitations you'll run into with different pedals, these 2 pedals are not passing through the CC command, so that's why I'm going to a mult. We're coming out of the MIDI Maestro, going into the mult, and we're coming out of the mult. One is going to the M9, the other side of the mult is going to the Mo effects, and then that's going from the through into the M5. And what's really great about Custom Mode is that it gives you the ability to take your other third-party pedals and expand on their features. I'd like to thank all of you for watching the demonstration today. For more information, please check out our website, singularsound.com. And for more information about me and where I'll be playing next, please check out joevitalijr.com. From Singular Sound, I'm Joe Vitale Jr.